Okay, good morning. Today we are going to run the 10-4 wire for our electric heat, which is down here. So there'll be a control box mounted over here, and so that wire has to come down through this wall, through that hole, and run back to the sub panel. So this is some pretty thick cable. It's not easy to work with, but we're gonna take our time and run it real nice from there over and down to where the control box is going to go. And then I'm gonna drop in some 12 volt also in this cavity for the range hood fan, which is 12 volt. That goes above the stove. So what we're looking at here is next to the refrigerator is where the stove is. So I need to drop, I could do it later, but I'm gonna do it now. It's be so much easier. I got the wall open and I can secure it in there pretty well. Talking about my 10-4 wire. And then I need to drop down some more 12 volt for my hot water heater and for my Suburban propane heater. So for my water heater and for my propane furnace, I'm sorry. And the furnace, the hot water, and the electric heat all need wires for thermostats. And I think where I'm going to mount my thermostats, originally I was going to do it on this wall, but I changed my mind. So I think the HVAC I'm going to mount on this wall, which is the TV wall, bedroom area, and my hot water, I think I'll just put the panel here at my control center. And what else? And then once I got those wires in here, I'm going to go ahead and install the stove, trim it out, build my shelf for my microwave and trim it out. And then, of course, before I do that, I gotta close in this wall. So let me get to it. Now I'll be back. I'll show you my progress. This 10 gauge wire is very thick. It's 4 wires in there. And if you just take your time, you know, and I'm unraveling it nice and flat. I've got it on a bar over there at the end of the trailer. And so I'm just taking my time, feeding it slowly. I've got 30 feet of it, and I'm going to use every bit of it. So I'll be right back. Okay, you can see that 10-4 wire is in through the ceiling into the wall right above the sub panel. I'm going to go ahead and make my connection there. Of course, all the power's off. I've got no electricity coming in. I'm going to turn off my inverter, which will kill the power to my sub panel. Make my connection, tighten up my wire, and then run it into where the electric furnace is. Mount my box there and terminate that wire there. The 10-3 with a ground. It's a 10-4 wire, and then it'll be safe and secure and no issues. All right, let me do that and I'll be back. Okay, I've got my wire coming down for my electric heat. It's coming in. Got it all ready to go. It's going to get connected to that 30 amp breaker. My white wire, which is here, goes into my neutral bar. My ground wire, which is the bare copper wire, of course, goes down here into my ground bar. My black, which is my hot 1, and my red, which is my hot 2. Black here, red here. Those go into those respective on the breaker itself. All right, let me do that and I'll be back. Okay, my 30 amp breaker to my electric heat is all hooked up, run through the ceiling. Now we'll go back in the coach and tie up the other end, install the box. Okay, this is called a fuse block, and I'm going to be installing that in my coach as well, right underneath the circuit fuse panel that I ran yesterday. Okay, so why do I need another one? All right, well, this is kind of important. This panel and that panel both will go back to the utility room. The difference between that panel and what this one will be is that panel is on a master kill switch. And what does that mean? That means that when I throw that switch, whatever circuits are here are cut off from the batteries. And that's okay in most cases. However, this fuse panel, okay, will be hooked directly to the batteries. Okay, which means that if I shut the batteries off for some reason, this sub panel here, this sub 12 volt fuse panel, is what we're going to call an unswitched. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, let me explain. And it's got a, it's got a nice cover. Okay. All right. Here's why. In my utility room and in the coach are going to be liquid propane alarms, okay, that run off 12 volt. There's a CO monitor, and of course fire alarms. Now, if I shut the batteries off for whatever reason, then that would shut those monitors off as well, and we can't have that. We want those monitors running 24/7 unless for some reason, that I can't think of right now, that I'd want to disconnect them from the batteries. And in that case, if I ever wanted to do that, I would just simply come over to the fuse block and just pull the fuse, okay? Now, after standing here explaining this to you, I decided that there's no reason to put that sub panel out here in the coach. I'm going to go ahead and mount that back in the utility room. It's just 4 wires that I have to run, and they're 18 gauge. So I'm just going to, this way I don't have to run a wire all the way from the batteries to here. Okay, I can just run and then run them from there back to there. My monitor is going to be right there above the cat tower, right in the middle of the coach, which is plenty close to where the most of the propane is happening. So that's our bedroom, and I want it somewhere between it and us. Okay. Now, anybody that knows me knows that I'm, definitely afraid of fire. Every one of these windows are exit windows. Okay, that's why they say exit on them. They pop right out. If you need to get out of this trailer, you got one. I got another one. Two in the bedroom, one there down the hall, one behind the kitchen, and one in the living room. Of course, we got the door, but the idea is to be able to get the hell out of the trailer if in case of a fire, and your fire alarms, your smoke alarms, your CO monitors, your LPG monitors, all have to be functioning. So when I wire those in, I'll get back with you. Okay, I've got my 10-3 run down into the compartment where the controls are going to go, and I think I'm going to mount them on that wall right there. And I've got it running all the way down the coach. I've just got to wire tie it here again. No big deal, and I'll do that. And now I'm getting ready to run for the range hood. I'm going to go ahead and drop in some 12 volt. Okay, I've got my 110 20 amp for the microwave, and underneath the microwave is a range hood, just like a house, and it runs on 12 volt. So I'm going to go ahead and run that 12 volt wire here back to the back. So let me do that, and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to try this. I don't know if you guys can see it or not because it's hard for me to see it, but what I'm doing is I'm making my cable that will come from the battery, come up the wall, and go to my unswitched fuse breaker. So I've got my shrink wrap that I'm going to put on. I've got my lug, and it's a 5/16 because that's what size bolts I have on my batteries terminals. So you stick that bad boy on there like that. Okay, no big deal. And you got your crimpers. Okay, and very simply you stick that in there like that, and you squeeze. Bam. Okay. Pretty easy. I don't know if you can see that dimple in there or not. There's a dimple in there. Okay. Pull on a little bit. That sucker ain't coming off. Slide your shrink wrap, not too far, because you don't want it to interfere with your connection to your battery. So we're going to pull it back right about to there. Okay, that should be good. All right, and then get it nice. I like to get it nice and straight when I shrink wrap. Now you see the see the tubing. Then you just take your heat gun, which is here. All right, I turn it on, and you can see it shrink right before your eyes. Okay. Now this son of a bitch is very hot, so put it somewhere where it's not touching anything and let it cool off. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to let this cool off a little bit. It's not too bad. Didn't take much to shrink wrap it. Okay. All right. Not too bad. Okay. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to snake it down to the battery terminal, and I don't know how I'm going to film that, but I'll try because I want to try. If I set this sucker over here, okay. Okay. Alright, let's see if I can't move it. Alright, well there's the switch, okay? And that switch right there is what we're bypassing. And by the way, I've got it in the off position. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to snake this bad boy right down. Actually, it might be easier to, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing or not. Yeah, it might be easier to snake it up. And I'm going to come back behind the switch. See what we got here. I want to come up on the, well, I guess it doesn't matter because I can always, let's see what we got here. Let me pull this grommet up. I made the hole plenty big enough, so I'm not too concerned about that. It's gonna go just fine. There we go. Okay. And I'm gonna slip it over my grommet. I've got a grommet here that's totally unnecessary, but it makes me feel better, so that's why I have it. Okay. All right, and I'm gonna pull this wire all the way as far as I can, but I'm gonna try to fish it around some of these other wires real quick before I get the whole. It's a pretty thick wire. This is 8 gauge wire. I had about 5 feet of it, so that's what I'm using. It's stranded. It's copper. Now remember, all my 12 volt stuff right now is dead because I've got the batteries turned off. I mean, of course, the batteries are still, you know, live. Okay. I think that's going to be enough. Now, what I have to do is, I have to move this so I can open up this, and let's see if I can't hold it for a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come through that hole where that red bar, that big red wire is. So let me see here. You should see it pop through here in any second. Okay, there we go. All right, now keep in mind these are batteries. They're they're live. There's no on-off switch, so you got to be very careful when you're coming in. With wires. Don't let them just go crazy and touch stuff. All right. Let me set that right there for a second. It's nowhere near the ground. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the box. And blah 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 blah. Okay, I'm just going to show you a little bit about what I'm going to do here. Okay, all right. Now, this wire is going to attach right there with those two. Okay, so I'm going to leave myself a little little wiggle room. Actually, I'm going to leave myself a lot of wiggle room because eventually, if there's 2 more batteries, I want to be able to run this over there. So, put that down in there for a second. Jeez. All right, let me see if I can't. Let me do this real quick. Okay, what I'm going to do, let me give it back. Okay, I've got my wire where I want it. Okay, I mean, I don't have it secured yet, but I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna run it behind the switch. Okay, get it nicey nice. Get it nicey nice, and I'm gonna wire tie it so it doesn't, not wire tie it, but put a grommet on it. So I thought I brought them. Let's see here. I did. Let's see if I got any small 1/4-inch ones. I got one. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is bring that over there like that. Push it up a little bit. Put that right there. Alright, set that for a second. Do this. I'm hoping you guys can see what I'm doing. Alright, and then these screws they're metal, but they don't seem like they hold a magnet very well, so I love them. They work great. They really bite the wood good. And so anyway, all right, so now that's secured, and my wire is where I want it to be. Okay, I'm not worried about the top one right now. Okay, all right, so what I want to do now is I want to bend this wire. I guess you guys can see what I'm doing a little bit. And then I want to measure over, and then I want to bend the wire again. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Now for me, wiring is it's just important to me that it doesn't look like shit. Anyway, so I got that where I want it. I got that right there where I want it. Okay, so I know where I want to cut the wire, right there. So as soon as I find my wire cutters, which are right here, kaboom. All right. Maybe if I put this over here now, maybe you can see. Let's see where I'm working at. Right there. Okay. All right. You can see right there. I'm making a terminal connection for right there. Okay. And I've got another lug. Okay. So what I do before I strip my wire, again, I don't know, I assume you guys can see what I'm doing here. And listen, if you know what if you're bored, you can always fast forward. Where the hell's the box at? Right there. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Let me try to zoom in a little bit. There we go. I'm telling you, man, I'm getting all fancy here. Okay. So here's my shrink wrap. I always stick my shrink wrap on before I strip my wires because I forget to put it on there. And when you forget to put it on, then you have to cut your lug off. We don't want to have to do that. All right, so since this is number 8 wire, I'm using a cutters that are for number 8. You just score it and pull it. Okay. Now let me see if you can. Here's the end of my wire. Oh, it's over there a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see where we. Oh no, I got it dangling down. Okay. All right. There's my wire. Okay. So here's my lug. I'm going to stick that on there. Okay. And that one does seem to be a little big. Let me see if I can't put my fingers on another one that's a little bit smaller. A little bit smaller in diameter. Hello, Brandy. know if this one is or not. Nope. Here we go. Aha. Fits perfect. Let's see if it fits on here. Oh, life is good. Okay. I can't. I assume you can see that. Yes, good. Alright, so just like before, grab our crimper, and I usually put a thumb on it, and all I'm looking to do is just put a dimple in that bad boy. Okay. And squeeze. Okay. And there you go. I'm going to give it another squeeze because I can. Because that's what I want to do. This time without holding on to it. I assume you guys can still see. See what I'm doing? Alright, yes. Okay. Give it a little twist test. Okay, slide our heat tube on there. Now I assume, shit, I assume, okay, it's right there. And now I'm gonna get my heat gun. I'll start this end. I don't know if you can see it or not. See it shrinking? Shrinking, shrinking, shrinking. Alright. Hit it from the other side a little bit. Hit it from the back side, and bada bing, bada boom, we're done. Alright, that was easy. Okay. Now, I need to unscrew the nut. And there's a lock washer and a washer. Alright, let me see here. Okay, so this, let me see, let me come at it from this angle, might be better. Yeah, okay, perfect. Alright, so straighten our wire out. We can turn it a little bit. Alright, see how that's on there? Okay. Wrap it up. I'll take it. Okay. I like it. It works good for me. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Now, believe it or not, well, I mean, it's nothing, but there's a particular way you have to put your washers on. You got your flat washer. Okay. And then you put your lock washer, and then you put your nut. Alright, now this is a very long post, so I may have to get a wrench, but for now I think I can just use this, and hopefully it'll I can get it down far enough to drive her home. Yeah, it'll be fine. That'll be fine. Okay, and again, if you look at it straight on, you can get it nice and tight. Alright, let's see what we got here. I got this. I'm gonna take this one off, stick this one on. And I'm going to give it a good crank, but I always look at it, make sure my cable's nice and straight. And you want to tighten that as tight as you can get it without breaking it. Alright, that's on there pretty damn good. Okay, now, here's the cover. I assume you guys can still see. I think I bumped it with my foot. Okay, here's the cover. I'm gonna stick the cover on it. Of course, there's no wires hooked to it yet, but that's just sitting there doing its thing. Okay, and now get my tape out of the way, get my screwdriver out of the way, and put my crimpers away, put my drill away, and put this stuff away, and okay. And right there's our negative post that we're going to be putting that wire onto, along with the main 12 volt system and the other section of the battery. So, and here's our wire. Okay, there it is. All right. So I've got some extra wire, remember, because I plan on getting more batteries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of fish it around a little bit and use up some of that excess, as far as you know, giving it somewhere to go. Okay, all right, that looks good. That looks real good. Yeah, I think I'll go one more loop. Okay, all right, that's perfect. We like perfect. Okay, now, since this one's going to be on top, I'm going to go ahead and run my bolt through. Okay, so there's my bolt. My second one is going to be the cable that goes up to my 12 volt system. And then this third one is the actual cable connection. And I'm going to get that started. Okay. All right, so I've got that threaded, finger tight. All right. Well, I thought I did, but there we go. Okay. All right, get in there, get in there. All right, get in there, get in there. Okay. Let me get a little bit, couple more turns with my fingers. All right. Now remember, the batteries are still off. Okay, that's about as good as I'm going to get with my fingers. Okay, now this this small one on top, I mean, if I go cranking on that sucker, you know, it'll just destroy it. So we want to you know, kind of, you know, be a little gingerly with it. Don't have to, you know, treat it like Obama or anything like that, but we, you know, just be nice to it. And you know, when you feel it getting snug and tight, you know, give it a little bit more, and you should be good to go. Okay. Yeah, that feels good right there. Okay. All right. Let me grab my phone over here. Boop. Okay. All right. So here's my wire coming in. Okay, that's the wire we just ran. I went ahead and well, let me zoom out a little bit. Blah, 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 blah. There we go. Okay, I gave myself some extra, and I cooled it up, and now it's connected live to the battery. Okay. All right. And I gave myself some extra because there's going to be 2 more batteries, so I need that cable to be able to go over to the end post. When you hook your batteries together in parallel, the furthest to the right is your last negative post, and the furthest to the left is your positive post, and the furthest to the left is your negative post. Okay, and that cable goes in there, and that cable goes in there, and they both come out up top. There's my negative, and there's my positive. Now, I swore, well, I can't say I swore, but this connection directly to the battery will be the only other connection directly to the batteries. Okay, so here's this one, which is which is this red one here. And as you can see, it goes into a fuse and then goes into a bus bar. And then all of my positive stuff will go to that bus bar. Never comes down to the battery. Now, same thing with the negative, okay? As you can see, the only thing on the negative is my main line, which is right there. And it goes right there. Everything else goes on to here. Now, when I say everything else, I mean this line right here, which happens to go up and go to a bus bar. So as long as everything feeds into there and then comes down to here, that's still the same thing as if it's connected here. I've got my inverter, which is this wire right here. Follow my finger. I've got that connected directly to the shunt. Now, what is this shunt? This shunt is what's going to tell me how much energy I have going into my batteries, how much energy I've got going out, how many amp hours. It tells me everything. And I have a device that will be hooked up in the coach over on my electronics wall that'll allow me to get all of those readings. It's got Bluetooth. I can tap into it and check out, you know, from remotely what my voltages are and everything. So I'm pretty stoked about that. So, but for that to work, everything has to go through this negative. All grounds that are for the battery negative have got to come through here so that I can measure how the state of my battery bank is doing, okay? If I were to take something and bypass this shunt, you know, and just come straight to my battery, well, then it bypasses this shunt, and then, you know, it doesn't matter what readings you have at that point, because you're not going to have 100% of everything. So 100% of everything attaches to that lug right there, whether it's via the bus bar or what have you. Okay, it has nothing to do with the negative, the positive side. But the reason I don't want to do any other connections in the battery box for the positive is because I don't have to. Everything can be done right up here on my bus bar. And of course, everything is fused right there. Now, there's one thing that I am a little confused about, and I'm going to go do some research, because you know that's what I do. And I'm going to find out if I should fuse that unswitched fuse panel, because I think what I read was no, you don't want to fuse, because if the fuse blows, then the box dies, and then your monitoring system, like your LPG for propane, gas, fire alarm, and all that stuff, won't work if the fuse blows. So I just have to find out, you know, what the story is with that. So I will do that. Okay, I think I love me. I think I'm going to close this up and see where we're at. Okay. When I, if I were to, I don't have anything right now, but doesn't matter. Even my LPG fire and all that CO monitors and everything are still going to be grounded to the negative here, okay? This has just got a positive connection, okay? If it did have a negative connection, I would, if it had a negative connection here, I would have run a black wire from here up to my negative terminal there. So what I'm going to do is my second fuse panel, which is right here, okay? It's a 12 circuit fuse panel, which is exactly the same as that one. Has a positive wire goes into the bottom and a negative wire comes into the top, okay? So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be mounting this pretty much directly above the unswitched one, and it'll get its power directly from the bus bar, and its ground will go directly to the negative bus bar. And then what I'm going to do is all of my negative wires, because remember, you just put your positives in there to get your juice, but all the negative side, I'm going to run up to those posts right there, and then via that negative post, we'll go straight to the bus bar, and then come down and go into my shunt. So even my LPG monitors and fire alarms and everything will still be part of my overall energy usage. Okay. All right, cool. All right. Let me get to work here, tightening up some of this stuff, and I'll be back.